Hello and welcome to the Practice Marketing Podcast, highlighting successful strategies from North America's fastest growing clinics and experts so you can learn from their wins and power your practice growth. Hi, I'm your host, Neil Trickett, CEO of Practice Promotions, and today's focus, we're going to talk about what it is like to manage a 10 plus location PT practice with Bret Fairbanks, who is the co-owner of Pacific Pro Physical Therapy in California and Tennessee. And so today he's going to talk about how to grow, manage, and market a double-digit plus location practice, which is great news for all your really ambitious practitioners out there looking to scale your practice. So Bret, welcome to the podcast.
Well, thanks a million. It's great to be here.
Great. Well, I'm looking forward to hearing your journey and your story here and how you manage Pacific Pro. You've obviously accomplished a lot, and so I'm looking forward to hearing from that. So Bret, can you just tell us a little bit about your background and how you got to kind of where you are today?
Yeah. First kind of introduced into physical therapy when I had a family friend growing up whose dad owned a private practice. So that's kind of how I got introduced to physical therapy. And then always loved anatomy and took all the athletic training classes and all that stuff. And then ended up applying to PT school, got in surprisingly. And even back in the day it was hard, or I wasn't that smart, one of the two. But got into PT school, and then kind of how we end up in our private practice is it's a long story, but I went to PT school. And I knew Trace, my business partner, and undergraduates, and then we kind of went to separate schools, and then kind of met up with him afterwards, and that's kind of how we began.
Awesome. And so you started out with like one location, and then you just kind of grew from there.
Yeah, I had a couple jobs outside of PT school, and then I found Trace. He was managing an outpatient clinic, and so then I worked with him for a couple years. And then the story is like, I worked with him a couple of years. We always talked about opening up our own, just like most people are like, hey, we should open up our own. Never really did. And so then I actually left after a couple of years, did a lot of registry, did some home health, and then got into medical sales a little bit. And that's where I was, when I was doing medical sales, I was marketing to, a lot of the orthopods and family doctors. And I said, hey, I can market physical therapy. So then found a location. After a couple of years of doing that, found a location, went back to Trace, said, hey, I think we can do it. We found a location, and we opened up the first one in 2004 in Irvine.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. And so Pacific Pro is pretty interesting because you've got 13 locations in California, and then you have one in Tennessee. So how did that transpire?
Yeah, I'm a huge believer. I really believe if you're a good PT, people will come see you, honestly. Mm-hmm. And not just a good physical therapist. You got to be a cool person. You got to be normal, got to be easy to get along with, super personable. And Mason, who runs our Tennessee location, he actually worked for us for Irvine, moved away to Oregon. And when he came back, we were just opening up our Marietta office. And he was moving out there. So we hired him. He opened up Marietta for us. And then he helped us open up Temecula. And then he and his family, he had a young family growing, and they moved to Tennessee. So we're like, hey, look, let's give a shot in Tennessee. So he's been out there for a couple of years now and plugging away, trying to get that going as well. So
that's an excellent opportunity, right? Because you had someone who's very successful in opening clinics, and then, hey, we don't want to lose you. How can we branch out and use this opportunity to make it a win-win, right?
For sure. It's been... And Mason's great, right? And I really believe Tennessee's a different market than here, so it's been a learning experience for us from a business standpoint. Mm-hmm. Different market. I thought it'd be a lot easier than it is, but it's a funky market out there. But it's finally turning the corner, and he's doing well.
Excellent. Yeah, that's a great point that you made there, because as we think about expanding and opening multiple locations, sometimes even within the same city. If it's a big city, you could have different demographics, right? You could have a little bit different philosophy in your audience, or your public might be a different age group, or, one side of the town might be, different demographics, and the other side of town could be, let's say, more affluent, and they want additional different services lines, things like that, right?
For sure. Even out of Tennessee, in California, because we have a couple in Orange County. which is kind of a little bit more affluent, kind of Orange County, the OC kind of thing. And then we have Riverside County, which is great, the young population kind of growing out there. And then we're branching into San Bernardino County. So it's a little bit different in each, even within the county, it's a little bit different, right? We have a
Hmm.
clinic way out in Hemet, which is out there. We joke around about that one, but it's a whole different market as well, right? Different marketing tactics, different, a little bit different everything.
Yeah, really interesting there. And so with your locations as you've grown, have you grown the clinics organically, or have you done more through like acquisitions?
We acquired, so the story is we opened up Irvine in 2004, and then we purchased Hemet, the one out that I was just talking about, out in the middle of nowhere. I had a buddy who was a PT. He was gonna stay out there and manage that clinic. We're like, oh hey, great. And then the last second he left. He moved to LA, and so they came. We said no on that, but then they came back to us. The guy selling this clinic came back, said, hey, you guys interested? So we ended up buying that. So we did purchase that one, but then all the other ones have been de novo. We started from scratch.
Oh, very interesting. And so I'm just curious for you, like, there's probably pros and cons to both ways, but what in your opinion tends to be an easier way to
Um,
grow?
like it's funky now. Like I'm actually starting to look a little bit more. Hey, maybe trying to start acquire someone, and the sole reason is because of finding PTs. Right? It's hard to
Hmm.
find good PTs, and so if you find a good established clinic, but if I buy a clinic that's it's the sole PT that's running it, and he has an aide or an assistant, well, that's not going to do me much good because they're going to bail after a little bit. So if you're acquiring something now, it's got to be, hey, you got to hopefully they have a seasoned PT in there that can kind of take over and run that clinic.
Hmm.
So that's definitely we've kind of started to look that way. Right now, we're just focusing on de novo and finding a good clinic director to open up that clinic.
Mm. And then for you, when you start up a new location de novo and you have a good clinic director that you can put in there, how long do you typically see it takes to get that, that clinic some traction,
Yeah,
right?
it really that definitely depends on the kind of location. So like we're um, you always hear kind of the Olympic theory model, right? You kind of go to like the little rings, the several rings. I'm a little bit far enough away from this clinic, but I'm still going to steal a little bit maybe from this, and so we try and stay around the our other clinics, and so that definitely helps with the marketing because then the doctors already know us. And so
Hmm.
some of our clinics, like we knew, like we've had two that like blew up. Like I mean, as soon as we moved over there, they were busy. We already had an ad out for a second PT. Like it was that quick, right? So we grew up to 60 visits, and then we're like, hey, we got to get somebody else in here within 2 months. And so
Wow.
those clinics have been great. Other ones, like we just moved into San Bernardino County, and we're newer in that county, and so those we just opened Chino Hills and our Upland one, and that's taken a little bit to get going because just the physicians don't know us.
Hmm.
We do have some contracts that help us kind of. We have a little bit contracts that aren't the greatest payers, but they're the fillers, right? Hey, they'll get us some patients, but we don't want all of our clinics to be full of those type of patients. So, um,
Yeah, that's really interesting. So I like your philosophy there, and I've seen that as people have expanded and it didn't quite go well because they just thought, hey, we've got a great established 2 or 3 locations here. We're humming along. We're just going to open another location across town. Um, and they assume going into that they're going to have the same level of success as they have with their other locations, but it was maybe a little too far away to get the benefit of that overlap you're
yeah,
talking about, and then you're starting really from scratch, right?
totally.
So that first year is the most expensive year
Yeah,
for that clinic and marketing efforts and trying to get known in the area and stuff. But I like what you said there, where when you're looking at a new location, does this have a little bit of overlap with a pre-existing location so we can get that benefit of people knowing about it and some traction with the doctors and things like that.
it definitely helps, right? Because like some of our clinics too will have like the PT that's working there. We'll have a clinic director and another PT, and that new PT is going to be the director of the other clinic, right? So not only will we get new referrals up here, but some of the patients kind of follow that PT up to the new clinic because it's not too far away, right? I'd say if it's 8 to 10 miles away, then okay, hey, people will travel that to follow that PT. So then that instantly gives like, okay, I got 5 visits this week, right? Hey, that's great. Let's start it out
Mm-hmm.
that way. So
Excellent. And so, when you started out with your clinic in 2004 and you started to be successful with that, when was the point when you realized that you were ready to really scale? Pacific Pro beyond just one or
Yeah.
two
So
locations?
how our story goes is like, we started in 2004. We purchased him in 2006, and then again, Trace and I kind of saved, and then it was the time of our lives too. We had young kids running around, so we didn't open up another one until 2012. So there was some time in there, and then in like same thing, we had the three, and kind of like we're busy with kids, and always wanted to grow. And Trace and I, it's a great match because I'm kind of the risk taker, and Trace pulled back the reins a little bit. So I'm always, hey, let's get going, let's get going. And then in 2018, we were approached by a buddy of mine that I was coaching with our kids, and said, hey, he owns some skilled nursing facilities and different things, and he said, hey, I'm purchasing a home health in New Mexico, but the guy owns some outpatient clinics, and he wants me to go in with that, and I don't know anything about outpatient. He said, do you mind doing some consulting? So Trace and I went over into New Mexico and did some consulting for them over there, and kind of helped them grow from like 2 clinics up to like 5 or 6 clinics. And then they ended up selling those. And so it was kind of a good experience for us. From Trace and I, it was kind of a good learning experience. We got to learn. I learned, not from the PT side, but like, hey, I should have had a bigger piece of the pie, right? It's like, wait a second, I'm like, what the heck? We get all this thing, it's kind of funny. But we joke around about that. You're like, oh, but again, it wasn't about the money for us. It was more the experience of doing that.
Hmm.
And then when we came back here, um, um, like my buddy was opening up as a nursing skilled nursing facility out in Marietta, and then so I approached him, hey, do you want to partner up, maybe open up some outpatients out here? And he's so we did, and then 2018, that's when we took off, right? And
Hmm.
so he's kind of a silent partner back then, but he has the funding, and he lets us do our thing, and yeah, we've been successful at doing that. And so we 2018, 19, we've been, and then COVID, but we still, even during COVID, like we opened up we had opened up a clinic March of that year, Temecula, when it happened, and so we're like, ugh. And then at the end of that year, we opened up another clinic, and I'm like, it was just, it's funky. Everyone had to roll with the punches back then, so it was kind of
Yeah.
funky and kind of weird, but we made a go of it, and yeah, and then we came out of COVID strong, and then we just kind
Hmm.
of back at it now.
That's really cool. So I
Yeah,
think one thing that I learned from what you just said is that I think one thing that you've done really well is that you're very good at networking and finding opportunities and people to work with. And
for
I
sure.
do think that's part of the key of scaling a bigger business, right? Is that you can't do it all just by yourself. The bigger you get, the more people you rely on, right? And
A
the
hundred
you do
percent.
have more opportunities as you go along there, as you start to network and you meet with people. And that's a really cool thing that you did with your business partner as you went and consulted with other clinics. So you kind of learned that bigger scaling and taking it to that next level, but without maybe as much of the risk side
Yeah.
of it, right? Which then you could apply back and then you met people to help fund it. And so I think you really kind of taught me a lesson there too, in that, in order to scale, to reach those things, the better you are at networking and building opportunities with other people, the easier it is to grow.
I, I definitely agree with that, and I think the funky thing. Not, I don't want to talk about COVID, but the funky thing with COVID though is it did for us down here in California. Like, it opened up because I started talking to a lot of the other PTs. Right, we were just shooting ideas, and then that opened up a networking thing, and it took away that stigma of, oh, they're our competitors or they're this. I'm like, look, we're all in this together, and as a profession, we definitely need to do that. We need to network
Mhm.
more. There are plenty of patients out there for everybody, especially now. I think it's so many patients out there, but
Yeah.
it's learning from others, like, hey, you do this, hey, what'd you do here, and then never passing up an opportunity. And
Mhm.
Trace and I, neither one of us are greedy. We're If it's a win-win, I'm open to any, hey, what's going on here, let's talk
Yeah.
about it, right? So
That's fantastic. And so now that you have a 14 location practice, you kind of scale this up. Obviously, the challenges become different at different levels here. So I'm curious from your perspective, what do you find right now as the biggest challenges when you're running such a large practice?
like, we have different kind of, Trace and I have different roles, but like, it is interesting, a couple things with that. My biggest fear is I don't want to lose that quality care, that fun, cool vibe in the clinics. Easy to do when you're 2 to 3, right? As you get bigger, you're like, because I can tell, like, my job now is I go out to all the clinics, and I can tell everybody, you could tell, right? You walk in the clinic, within 2 minutes, you're like, cool place. what's going on here today, right? So I want to make sure that as you grow, I don't lose sight of that. And
Mhm.
that's hard sometimes because I can't be there every day, right? And
Yeah.
so it's hard. And so going back to, I always tell our clinic directors, whatever the personality is of that clinic director will take on the clinic will take on that personality, right? So if you're
Mhm.
a quiet clinic director, chances are your clinic's going to be quiet as well. If you're fun and TV's on or music's playing and everyone's having a good time and everyone's talking, that's what we want. We want that kind of cool camaraderie kind of clinic. And if the director's not going to do that, it's very hard for like a PT to step in and do that, right? So
Mhm.
a lot revolves around that director position.
Yeah, that's a great point. And sometimes we think that culture is from the bottom up, but it's top down.
Yeah,
And
it really is because it's hard. It's hard for unless you're kind of outspoken like I am, right? We'll step in. The PTs will usually wait for who's running the show to kind of start that conversation, right? So
Mhm.
it's definitely it definitely revolves around the clinic director, especially starting a new clinic because it's only them there. So
Yeah, makes total sense there. And so that makes sense too as you scale, the holding the form of the business, holding the culture of the business becomes more challenging and you have to put more effort and attention on it. And I can totally relate to that because we've grown to like 75 staff and we all work remote. So we have to be very trusting and we try to get together a few times a year to do trainings and we do virtual trainings and all kinds of stuff. But our leadership team is phenomenal and they really are constantly pushing, and we have a lot of communication and chats going where we're pushing, acknowledging each other and giving each other fist bumps and things like that. So you have to be methodical and you have to purposefully be doing that, right? Putting the communication in, making sure that you're setting the tone of how you want things to run and the culture of the business from the top.
for sure, 100%. Because if you're not, the fastest way to learn it is ignore them for a month and then go in that clinic and see, right,
Mm-hmm.
what's going on. And then you're quickly gonna find out, hey, this person's organized and knows what they're doing and things are going great in this clinic, or you're like, ooh, what the heck is going on, right? The
Mm-hmm.
clinic isn't as clean as it should be. It's just kind of unorganized. You're like, whoa, what's going on here, right? And
Yeah.
everyone knows those clinics, or all the PTs know the clinics, right? Patients don't know the difference a lot of times, but PTs immediately you walk in, you're like, hey, this is great, or it's not. So
Yeah.
going back to your question too, it's not only as we grow, like culture is huge for us, right? But policies and procedures, all of that stuff. If you're growing and that stuff is not in place, forget about it, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
learning that was hard for us too. Is and I'm sure it was for you as well. Is you learning to delegate those things that I've always kind of controlled or Trace has always controlled. We're delegating a lot to other people because if you don't, it's impossible. You can't. I mean, like the website. I mean, the website itself. Trace and I used to do the website, but I can't tell you how many hours Trace spent building our own website, doing all that stuff, and I would do the newsletters. I'm like, I don't know how to do a newsletter. What am I? I spent so much time. Like you saw me on my tech stuff. I'm not tech savvy. I'm like, what the heck, dude? We spent so much time doing that. So
Mm-hmm.
it's those things you have to learn to delegate, have your policies and procedures in place, and then you can kind of focus on and make sure the culture is good. Those all those things kind of you have to do them at the same time, kind of. So
Yeah, great point there. So, and I know just reading a lot of like business books and trainings and stuff like that, it's just a common business thread as you scale for any business. There's that you kind of do it all yourself until you about that $1 million mark, and then you really need to start to put the people in that start to do things for you to get to that 3 million mark. But then past that 3 million, you got to really have the policies in there, the managers doing it. You got to remove yourself in the kind of smaller day to day activities and be more, overarching and different and more strategic and visionary and things like that. So it's interesting to hear you say exactly those things that I've seen and heard in business trainings of those kind of break points in business growth because it just holds true time and time again.
it does, right? And like again, you ignore it, and it gets like if you there's no way we can have 14 clinics without policies and procedures in place. It would just be a colossal nightmare, right? It's hard enough as it is with the policies and procedures in place.
Hmm.
You get rid of those, and if you're winging it, still forget about it, right? It's easy to
Yeah.
wing. You got 2, 3 clinics, you can wing it and whatever.
Yeah, I think you just said it there too. Like, just if you didn't have those procedures in place, it gets more chaotic, right? And I think that's just it's a natural part of the business as it grows. It will become more complex. So I've always tried to look at it too as as you grow and scale your business, it's easy to just add things in, and then the complexity just goes through the roof. And if I approach it from, okay, how can we simplify things? That enhances the ability to scale, because now everybody can operate off of, some similar policies, right?
For sure.
Instead of everybody doing their own thing, and you just kind
Yes.
of get chaos with it, right?
Yeah.
So I'm curious too, as you scaled, I know that we started working together to help you guys out with your website and technical marketing there and stuff like that. But what kind of systems or software tools have been game changing for you in managing operations at scale for your practice?
The two big, really the only the two big ones that we use are, practice promotions and prompt. We've just moved over to prompt a year or so ago, right?
Yep.
And those, and you have to have, like, I'm a firm believer, there's no way there's so much behind the scenes stuff that your team does for us, right? That we were doing before. Like, yeah, I joke around, but I'm telling you, hours I would spend on the computer trying to figure out the best. How do we get our SEO up to number 1, or how do we get to number 2? How do we get on the first page? All of that stuff. And I know, as a young practice owner, everyone's trying to save money and trying to do that. But as soon as we let the website, and Trace would build the website behind the scenes, and, like, oh my gosh, it would just, and neither one of us are, that was not our forte. That's not what we do. But we do what we had to do to kind of to manage it. And then as soon as we bring that on board, it's like, I know it's two things, right? I know someone is doing a good job at it, and I don't have to do it, right? So hallelujah. And it costs money, but our return on investment, which is great. I actually just had the phone call with your guys, with Kendall and Maria this morning. We meet once a month. We do our Zoom calls. They show us exactly where our money is going. This is what it's going, and it's so much. And this is where we're ranked. Here's our performance report for our website and for our SEO, and then for our lead generation, our return on investment. Like, before, I was doing all that, right? That's a handful of what I just said that took forever for me to do. Now someone else is doing it for us, and it's working, and we're getting a good return on investment for it. So for us, that's a huge thing. Kind of take that off our plate.
Mm-hmm.
If you do that, if you don't have that, I really think, which is kind of funny too, some of the big players out there, I'll go to their website and I'm like, this thing is horrendous. Why? Like, it's so bad. Like, I don't know why some of the big players aren't really diving into that. Maybe they have other reasons and stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
for our level, it's huge, because we get, like, I'll check my phone, like, when we're done, and I'll already have, like, appointment requests emailed to us from the website. I was not a believer in that before. Like, I'm like, no one's gonna make an appointment online. That's kind of weird. I'm old school. I'm old, right? And then we get a ton. Like, every day, I get appointment requests or contact us through the website. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're not doing that, you're like, that's an instant. Like, why wouldn't you be doing that, right? It's just crazy that some people just aren't doing it. So that's a huge thing. And then prompt, obviously, from a EMR and clinical side, you have to have some good EMR, right? It has to. You have to have that. If not, then you're behind the ball game.
The top 10% of PT owners aren't just surviving, they're thriving. But what's their secret? Well, Neil Trickett's new Market2Grow book reveals how the top 10% of PT practices leverage marketing systems to simultaneously grow their new patients, attract top talent, and boost profit in their practice. You can learn from their secrets. Visit practicepromotions.net/book to claim your free copy of Market2Grow. Yes, you heard that right. We are shipping a free copy of Market2Grow to all podcast listeners who want it. Just visit practicepromotions.net/book to claim your free book. And now back to the show.
Yeah, so great points there. Obviously, as you scale, we know we need to improve our systems, and our systems should kind of take us to that next level that we want to get to. And I think it's a reality check. Sometimes you get to that point. It's like, okay, I need to spend money to make money here, right? And yes, it's going to cost me so much to work with an agency or put a new EMR in, or whatever, a call center or whatever it's going to be, but it will provide orders of scale for you after that. So I think that's some of the choke points for practice owners. Is there's practice owners that have risk aversion, so they really hold themselves back because I'm afraid to spend money here. I'm very money conscious. I'm very protective of money, and I'm trying to save my way to growth, which is, you can't do it, right? You can't save your way to growth. And then you got sometimes people on the other end, which they go too far in spending on all kinds of stuff, and they're not as cost conscious, and then they get into trouble that way too. So I think you got to kind of be in the middle where you're cost conscious, but then you're also, you realize you got to take enough risk here and investment to get your practice to that next level and those goals that you want to get.
It's 100% like that is what you just said is Trace and I, right? Trace is it will take forever for him to spend money on anything, right? And he admits that he's that way, and I'm just the opposite. So we always end up meeting in the middle, and it's been good, right? We've obviously spent money on things we probably shouldn't have, or failed that didn't work as well, but it's always a good check and balance for both of us, right? Because I would be like, hey, let's try this. This is the kind of new Fandango. I'm not the, hey, go buy every shiny little thing, but I'm pretty like, I'm definitely the risk taker, right? I'm the gambler. Let's go pull it down, right? So Trace kind of holds us back a little bit.
Yeah.
In a good way. In a good way.
So I'm curious too, as you scaled here, one of the things I'm always curious for is as clinics start to grow and really get, to large sizes like yours, do you leverage calls at a local level, or have you considered like a call center, or you operate a call center? I'm kind of curious, or central booking.
No, we don't. But we just had that conversation, right? I think we're getting to that point sometimes where like it might be worth it, right? I think when you get closer to that, maybe 18 to 20 clinics, you're like, okay, it might be better to have a central call, because then that takes away from 8 million calls at each office, right?
Mm-hmm.
That I'm hesitant just because it kind of takes away the that culture a little bit, right? Because they all know Rachel up front, right? They want to talk to Rachel, right? Because that's who they see at the office. So that's my kind of biggest, probably my biggest hesitation is that, right? I don't want to take away from the mom and pop kind of calling. I don't want to call a central station. I want to call my office that I go to. So it takes away from that family kind of feel a little bit. I think you can still get away with it. Obviously it does, because people are doing it. But we're getting to that point where it would be probably beneficial, right? Especially with different insurance companies, and some insurance companies are mandating it. Hey, I'm sending referrals to one place, right? And then you got to divvy them out. So we're getting there.
Got it. Yeah. That's challenge as a business, right? Sometimes we have to make those tough decisions of like, okay, the efficiency here, does it make sense? And it kind of changes the way that we're doing things. It might impact our team. Like there's hard decisions to make as a business owner, right?
For sure.
But yeah, I've seen it. I think that, like you said, there's that one point where the amount of phone numbers that you have on your website, right? The amount of phone numbers that you have on emails, like it becomes confusing for the patient when they're trying to figure out, okay, which office do I call? There comes a point where like it does make sense to kind of centralize scheduling and things like that. Sure. And I think you can have sort of both. I think you can, like, especially for new patients coming in, things like that, have more of a centralized opportunity. And then once they're in the clinic and want to, kind of work with someone at the front desk, they can kind of do that too. So I think for a while you can kind of use both. The other end of the spectrum is like, I know we like with our family, like kids and stuff, they were with a hospital system, doctors and things like that. So the kids' doctors, it's a nightmare trying to get referrals and stuff because you have to go through central scheduling and then they have to call the individual office, so it's very inefficient the way that they have it set up. So you got to be kind of careful and methodical in your process for central scheduling, because I know from hospital systems it can be messy.
Yeah. And you don't want to lose patients, right? If I get a referral over to here and like I never heard about that patient, right? And then, I just don't. You definitely have to be efficient for sure. But I think with everything, right? It's always like I don't want to lose that family feel, but it's to those current patients. If the patients don't know that, or if it's a new patient, that's normal to them to call the central station and then kind of be referred over to the office, and then they can meet Rachel and build that relationship that way.
Yeah, I think you can't go wrong.
We're definitely getting close for sure.
Yeah, I think you can't go wrong if you always frame it from what is the most convenient for the patient, right?
Yes.
So, and and like however you think about your process for, because it's a huge thing. Like we got to think about marketing is how we're, being presence online, how we're attracting people to us, how we're starting to build confidence in them that we're the right solution to their problem. And then they're like, okay, you know what? I'm going to try this place. I'm going to give them a call, or I'm going to fill out a form online, or I'm going to book something. And then your process from there with whoever's managing that call, getting their insurance information, getting them scheduled, that's your sales process. So you do need a good sales team. Like your front desk is really your sales team to make sure that's an amazing, convenient experience for the patient coming in. So I think from, as long as you're kind of going from that frame of reference, that frame of mind, and how can I make this process as seamless and convenient and easy as possible for the patient, you can't go wrong with that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, again, it's all like a lot of business, right? It revolves around sales and customer service, right? So
absolutely. Yeah, we go hand in hand. So let's talk a little bit about marketing and patient growth here. So with 14 locations, I'm curious, we talked about how you did a lot of stuff yourself, right? In websites and emails and stuff like that. But I'm curious, have you, as you've scaled, have you tried to do consolidated marketing for like everyone, or do you try to keep it at a per clinic level, or have some of the clinics have some autonomy with their marketing? I'm curious what your approach has been there.
We definitely let them have some autonomy. We have 2 full-time marketers. Again, this is what's funky, right? That's always that I used to do all the marketing, right? So when I'd go out marketing, we get busy, and then we stop marketing, and it goes down, up and down, up and down. I'm like, we did that. I can't for years, right? For years we did that. Mm-hmm. And so at some point you have to pull the trigger and say, look, we got to try a marketer and see if it's going to work, or someone get out there or try different, spend some money somewhere, because I'm here to tell you that never works, because you're always going to go up and down. We did that for, I'm telling you, 10 years, right? I'm like, so finally we have 2 marketers right now. And I'm telling you, the best clinics that do well are the ones that communicate with the marketers the best. Hey, we got a new referral from this doctor, or hey, I met this person at the gym. Those clinics do great because we have 2 really good marketers, and they'll follow up with all that stuff, right? So if you're communicating and let the marketers know what's going on in your clinic, it's huge, because then they can go to that doctor and say, hey, Mrs. Jones just went over to the Menifee clinic and they said it's awesome, it's great, thank you so much for the referral. Yeah, just that in itself, right, means a lot to the physicians, because now I'm communicating. But if the clinic director is not communicating with our marketer, or it's not always the clinic director, it's a lot of times the front office, if they're not communicating with them, then they might not get that little bit of a hey, thank you, doctor, that another clinic did, and that makes all the difference.
Sure does. Yeah, and I think too, like you have a great point there. As obviously as you've scaled, you realized I needed to have people in charge of marketing in my clinic to help me out, right? And I think one thing to look at is if you're considering or a marketing director for your clinic, like what is the role of that person? Are they just to go out and meet doctors? No, they're really like, their job is to coordinate all the marketing actions within the clinic. So if you're looking for someone, you want someone who is very good at project management, very good at organizing people. That's your ideal marketing person in the clinic, because they don't need to be a specialist in SEO, websites, selling doctors, social media, like leverage outside help for some of those technical things. And the person really coordinates that. And their job, I love what you were saying here, because I think it's so important to scale a practice, is that everybody's on the marketing team. Every staff member is part of the marketing team. And you need that coordinator at the top asking, hey, do you have any success stories for me this week? How's it going with so-and-so? Hey, Dr. So-and-so sent this patient off their new doctor. Do you have any feedback for me to relay to the doctor? Or can you get them a report back today? Like that person's coordinating all those kind of lines of communication that are happening. And so that the better that happens, and the more your team is on board with helping them promote the clinic, the more successful you are.
For sure. Again, like we do, like from an internal marketing perspective as well, like our marketers will spend a lot of time kind of preparing and doing. We have monthly themes, right? And every office has the same theme, right? And those that participate in it are just like awesome, right? I mean, the patients are having a great time. We get, not only do they have fun, they get good treatment, we get good reviews, and we get the good Google reviews, and that just grows that clinic from an internal perspective, right? And then they come back a year later for their shoulder or their knee or whatever it is. Those that aren't doing that, it makes a huge difference. So internal marketing, external marketing, we have all of our different marketing buckets who we're trying to get. And then thank goodness, again, took that off my plate. Like now we have someone else that can kind of organize that and do all that. And they're awesome. We have great marketers right now. And they work, again, it's not just them. It's working with the teams. And the offices that work best with the marketers are the busiest, for sure.
And that's a great point, because I love what you said there. You obviously get your external marketing and your internal marketing. And sometimes we just think about all of the external marketing and we don't put as much attention on that internal marketing. But I can tell you, as a marketing agency, it's really hard to market a practice that doesn't do anything with internal marketing. If they don't get reviews from patients, if they don't take pictures, if they don't run events, if they don't get communication back of case studies, things like that, you've got no ammunition to really work with on the external marketing, or it's very limited. But if because your team is very good about even just from your website, the imagery, the picture, the videography, all that kind of stuff that you're doing on an ongoing basis within the clinic, all that internal marketing, it just makes everything run so much better when you have that in place. So kudos to you and your team for making that a big part of your culture.
It's funny because you say that, and I remember when I go to the market, right? I'd go to the market and I'd go to the doctor 8 billion times, right? I'm like, after I don't have anything else to say. If there was nothing going on in our clinic, I'm like, I am out of. I'm trying to find anything to bring up conversation. Marketers understand that, right? You're laughing because I'm sure that's your business.
I've done hundreds and hundreds of doctor visits.
Right. So after a while, you're like, what am I going to do? I don't know what to say anymore. And if you're not doing anything internally, forget about it. I need some, like you said, the ammunition. I'm out. I'm like, okay, what else are we going to do? But if we have monthly themes, this is what's going on. I got a progress report. I got all this. 1,000 times easier because it gives me a reason to go out there. And it's not just that, it's participating in sports physicals, it's participating in the community. All of those things are huge, and they make kind of that's going. As we got bigger, we started doing more and more of that because that's kind of going into the branding and the kind of just getting our name out there. So
yeah, and that's so you're talking about doing lots of different events and things like that, getting your name in the community.
Some events are great, and going back to individual clinics, some of our directors, right, will volunteer the time on Friday nights down at the football game and stuff like that. Awesome, right? Because that, again, those clinics that do that, huge difference. So, we have one that's a runner, right? So she runs the turkey trot every year. She does the turkey trot, puts up a booth, and does that, and she's known for that kind of stuff. So we definitely let them do their own. Our marketer will help them out. We'll be there. We'll do all that stuff. But yeah, so we let the individual clinics have a little autonomy doing their thing, and then we have a kind of a global marketers that are helping them do their little thing and getting out there doing the external referrals as well.
That's awesome, and that kind of stuff there is so critical. It comes back to public relations. So you got public relations, marketing, and sales. And the biggest part should be your public relations. And that's really making your good works well known out there. So that's reviews, right? That's being present at events and showing up and making connections within the community and making connections with, the physician community. And all of that is your public relations machine. And you need to be able to collect all of that internally too, all the great stories and things that are happening within the clinic, and be able to, send that out there and promote that. That's making your good works well known, right? All the great outcomes that you're having. And then if that's going really well, your marketing is so much easier, right? It's a lot less costly for you.
Way easier.
Yeah, because then you've got, your marketing is really how you look, your branding, right? Your positioning and all your SEO and your website and all this, your email marketing, that's all your technical stuff in your marketing aspect. And it's make people want your services. And so you got to really have people knowing who you are and the great stuff that you do. And you have all these amazing results. And then they're like, oh, this place looks amazing, professional. I think they can really help me with my problem. And I really want to go there, right? That's the marketing part. And now the sales is oh yeah, Mrs. Johnson, let's get you in for your appointment here. It's going to be this. And this is how many visits you're going to be expected to come for, and blah, 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 right? That's all your sales action. So if you're having a lot of patients drop off your schedule, let's say they come in for an eval or two, and then they kind of are flaky and they go off, right? And they drop, you probably have a public relations problem on the front end, right? So that's it sounds like, what you're doing is you're putting a lot of effort into public relations, which is the ideal thing to do, and it's making other things go much easier.
Like we definitely focus on that, right? Because I mean, I think most good outpatient clinics will do that, right? They don't want any. If someone comes in for 3 or 4 visits and they're gone, we always talk about that, right? Like, hey, what? So there's a disconnect, right? Most people, there's going to have few, and if you have a good reason, great. But if you just don't know, okay, then the PT didn't do their job. I'm a huge person on making that personal connection, right? If
Mm-hmm.
I make that personal connection, they're not going to drop off. They're not going to disappear. If I don't, it's very easy. Or if you're weird, right, they're going to say, this guy's strange. I'm not going to go back. Or you didn't really pay attention to me. I didn't get the thing. All of that makes it easy for people to not come back. So we have to connect with people and on a different level than physical therapy, right?
Mm-hmm.
I should connect with them on PT. I need to have a plan of care in place. This is their plan. I'll let them know the plan. But then also I should know about their grandma or their sister or something else about them. Because it is customer service and we're a customer service based profession. So
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. So, you're a big practice, and you did a lot of stuff yourself too. I'm just kind of curious why you decided to work with practice promotions rather than just a local marketing company or even hiring another person in-house.
it's funny. We tried we tried a couple different things out there, right? Not necessarily we tried different marketing kind of ideas. I mean, you've heard of all the guys out there, right? There's a lot of guys out there, and I always see yours. And like when you do your stuff, you'll always be like, "Hey, I'm going to steal from your newsletter or steal from this, and I'm going to take this paragraph over here." And you're like doing it all on my own, and I'm like, "Forget it. I'm done with any of that stuff." So then when we finally decided to do it, I'm like, "Look, I've been following you for ever, right?" I'm like, you don't know, but I'm the stalker of Neil. Yeah, I've been following you for a long time, so it was very easy for me to say, "Hey, look, we got a guy. I'm ready. Let's go. Let's pull the trigger." Right? It wasn't me hesitating. It's always Trace. Hey, Trace, we gotta make this jump over to here. And then once we did, of course, it's like perfect, great, and it's exactly what we expected. I mean, I knew it would be good, and your whole team has been really good. We can't say enough. And I mean, it just uh, I feel bad sometimes because I'm like, I feel like I'm neglecting your guys' team, but you guys do everything. I'm like, okay, this is great. I'm like, thank goodness. It's like a relief. I don't want to say anything because I don't want to screw it up. So I'm like, just let them keep doing it. It's working good. Let's go. So yeah, I can't say enough about you guys and the whole team. They've all been really nice and friendly, and makes it easier too.
Appreciate that. Yeah. And and I appreciate the fanboy too. That's
I know. I see you from afar. It was like, oh, there's Neil.
that's great though. But I appreciate that, and it's good feedback too, because for us, we like working with clinics, and we get the best possible results with clinics that we partner with. And sometimes that's a mistake too. Like if you think you're gonna just work with even like a local marketing agency, and you think everything's going to be hands off. Well, that's really the wrong approach. You should leverage anybody that you're going to work with as an extension of your clinic, right? You've got to partner with them because they can't know everything what's going on inside and what your goals and strategies or things that you need to pivot with. So that the better you meet consistently, the feedback that you give, the strategy, this kind of strategic alignment that you can create between your agency and what you have going on in the clinic, the better results that you're going to get, period. Right. And the clinics that we struggle with are the ones that are very disconnected, and they're overwhelmed. They're kind of doing things in their world. But the ones that do the best are the ones that are very collaborative with us, because then we could dial it in to exactly what your needs are.
It really is. It's fascinating. At 10:30 this morning we had a call with your team, right? So, and the first thing they asked, hey, what's going on? What's going on? How are things going? And just that thing. And so then we say, hey, this is what's going on. This clinic, we're trying to move over to here. They know what's kind of going on with our practice, right? And so what you said is like they're definitely kind of part of the team because they know hey, our Temecula office will be moving next month. They're already starting to make that build out on the website to kind of get that new address on there and get everything. But if not, then it's just like, again, it's not. It's just no one knows what's happening. So it really has been pretty easy to work with, and it's been great.
Awesome. Love it. And so for you, as you kind of coming back to the scaling of Pacific Pro here, what lessons have you learned, in growing Pacific Pro? Like if you had to kind of boil it down to some big, maybe mistakes that you made or lessons learned in the growth of your practice.
My big thing is like when I when I started, right, when I way back in like, just outside of high school, right, I started volunteering, right, I volunteered at these clinics, and then when I graduated, I came back, Tracer here. Now these clinics are up to 5, 6 clinics, right? These places where I volunteered at, and then it just kind of was stagnant, and I saw them kind of like do nothing, right? And so I'm a big believer in if you're not growing, you are dying, right? Like that makes me nervous. That makes me like, hey, if we're not like, there's plenty of other people out there. There's a lot of young PTs. There's a lot of other competitors out there. Competition is good. It drives that. Hey, let's get going. And so that made me nervous. So like I'm a big believer on taking that risk and moving forward rather than just staying the status quo. If you are, then you start sliding a little bit. And I've seen it. I've seen it with like all the old guys that dominated our market in here in Orange County are kind of gone. I'm like, what happened to them? Like, what's going on?
Mm-hmm.
Some kind of maybe merged, but a lot of them just kind of died off and dwindled down. So that makes me nervous. Lessons learned. I think the other thing is when we purchased the one out in Hemet, Trace and I were young and naive and just trying to be nice and please everyone. And in business, sometimes the nice guy always does not win, right? So you have to have a little bit of a firm hand on some things. As I got older, it's easier for me to say that. But when I was young, I was like nervous. I don't know if this, I knew it wasn't right, but I'm like, oh, okay, we'll just let that slide. And you're like, it comes back to bite you. So you do have to kind of have a, I don't know what the right word is. Not a hard hand, but just like hey, just understand what's going on and be willing to make someone uncomfortable a little bit if it's best for the business, right? And so that definitely, I've learned that because I'm a people pleaser. I want to make everyone happy. I like to joke around, good time, and let's go forward, right? But then you're like, I don't know if that's so good. And so you got to make that decision. Sometimes that's a hard talk to have with some people. Be like, this isn't working. So those are definitely lessons. And then as we grow, because I'm away from treating now, it went from, hey, treating people and it's easy, but now I'm like basically managing a lot of different people. Some of those conversations are hard, right? And so learning to have those hard conversations is definitely a skill. I'm not very good at it, but it's definitely required. So
Yeah, thank you for that. And I like what you said there about always constantly trying to grow, right? Grow yourself, grow your team, grow your business, because you might seem like really busy at one point, but it's really easy to start sliding.
Oh, yeah.
And then it's kind of harder to be the comeback kid on that.
Yeah.
I like, what you said earlier about your growth in the clinic was intriguing to me. So you started in 2004, and then you said at 2018 is when you really started to take off. And so how big were you about 2018?
That's what we still only had the 3 clinics, right?
Yeah.
So that was our 4th. And then a couple of things always come into play, right? This is what I tell people too. There's the funding has a big part of it, right? So whether like Trace and I grew just organically within ourselves, trying to save our money, but then also was a kind of a funky time when our kids were all young and we were coaching in sports, and so time was a big thing. So we valued our time a lot, and then also trying to save every penny because we weren't making any money, right? So we're trying to save, and then we bought this, we bought that one clinic, took out like a home equity loan, right, to get that clinic. So like big risks here and there, and then in 2018 when you have that funding, it definitely makes it easier, but it doesn't make it it's going to work, because you could go, like you said, spend all this money and it goes to nowhere. So I think at that time we really had our policies and procedures and everything almost ready to go in place, right? And so then as we went from 3 clinics to 4 clinics to 5 clinics, then we're like, okay, we definitely need to get these things kind of tightened up here. So
yeah, that's fascinating. So really, in order to have that scalability, that growth, you do need access to capital, right?
Definitely. Yeah, and whether you can do it on your own, but it's hard. I mean, clinics, PTs don't make a ton of money, I mean, for me as a working a PT clinic and saving money to open up another clinic, I'm not going to have like a spare $100,000 sitting around or $150,000. I'm like, we don't make that kind of money, right? Maybe you do, but I don't make that kind of money, right? So like PTs don't make a ton of money, so you have to have access to capital. So whether you get a loan, right, and do it on your own, or you find some private equity guy or just somebody with money to help you scale. You need something to scale. You need, because the risk is, like, if we would have opened up 4 or 5, like we opened up 3 and everything were good. But we had, when we purchased that second one, kind of a crazy story, right? When we purchased the second clinic, this is just 2 clinics. We purchased it from someone. When you buy a clinic, you're buying the goodwill, all the equipment's whatever, right? You're buying this goodwill. Well, he said he had all these referrals, and it comes down to, he had like 50% of his practice was coming from one orthopedic, right? Mm-hmm. And so within 4 months of us buying it, that orthopedic got thrown in jail for tax evasion.
Oh no!
So our referrals were gone. Right?
Oh gosh, yeah.
Like 50% of the referrals were gone. So we're like, right? So from a business, we learned a ton of things from that experience, right? And so we had to change and really just put in the hard work and kind of go out and find other referral sources and grow it that way. Mm-hmm. But it definitely, yeah. I mean, we learned our lesson and learned what we could do and what we do. But you have to have, and we had at that time, I think this was when I still had. We got a loan later on, but I had the home equity on my house. So I'm risk losing my house over the stupid practice where I had no idea the guy was going to get thrown in jail for tax evasion. So you make it work, right? But to consistently do that time, I wouldn't do that again, right? You're like, oh, that's scary, right? So finding some sort of capital to take that little bit of risk away. It's still risky because you got to pay back whoever you're getting the loan from, but a loan's better than like a home equity in my family. And that was a little scary, but.
That's great advice, though. I think that, learning those lessons that, hey, maybe there's a practitioner out there that has 2 or 3 locations, like, hey, there's an opportunity here with someone across, the town that's selling 2 or 3 locations there. And what do I do about that? And, if it looks like a good opportunity, don't try to just fund it yourself. Borrow some money, right, from someone that can make it happen.
Individually wealthy, you have to do it. But then also you have to know yourself. Trace and I have talked about this before. When we did it, it was like when we got to like 3, I think 4 or 5, like we look back and go like, we just never questioned whether it was going to be successful. We knew ourselves and knew like, hey, internally, I'm going to make this work. I'll go sell. I'll make it work. Figure it out. You have to know yourself. I'm a big believer in that too. I see some clinic owners, I'm like, that guy's not, you better have a good salesperson or bid something because they're never going to, they don't have that. You got to have that will to do it, right?
Yeah.
So know yourself. If you know your personality, hey, I can do this. I'm a risk taker. I'm going to make it work. Great. If you know you're not that way, don't try it because it's just not going to automatically come. Patients don't just automatically show up. So.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. And Bret, here, you give us so much knowledge here today, and thank you for being on the podcast. And is there any final parting words of advice you would have for a practice owner out there?
I'm a big risk taker, right? Go take the risk, right? Find partners like you guys, right? Or find someone that you're going to trust. Delegate some of the stuff that you're not good at. Focus on, like, I'm really focused on growth right now, and that's where my efforts and my time is going. If I'm still doing our website, if I'm still doing our SEO, you're never gonna do that. So I would say take the risk, know who you are, take the risk. If you know you can do it, then go for it.
Awesome. Fantastic advice. Thank you so much, Bret, for being on the podcast here and sharing your wisdom with us, and congratulations on your growth at Pacific Pro PT. And we're excited to keep working with you there and helping you grow your practice.
Well, thank you so much, Neil. Thank you guys for everything you're doing. I don't know if I gave you any wisdom, but I really appreciate your time and everything you guys have done for us.
Awesome. Thank you, Bret. And so to all our listeners out there, thank you for being on the podcast here. I hope you got a lot out of today's podcast. And don't forget to subscribe to the Practice Marketing Podcast so you can get more of our episodes, as well as on our YouTube channel. We've got tons of great advice for you on there. And of course, at practicepromotions.net, you can get lots of great downloads and marketing tips and advice to power your practice growth. This is Neil Trickett from the Practice Marketing Podcast and Practice Promotions, wishing you much success in your practice.
A free way for you to support our show is by leaving a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts. It's a chance for you to tell us what you love about the show, and it helps others discover it as well. Just scroll down to ratings and review on your phone and click write a review. Thanks.